Hi Formula Racers, welcome back. This is week 2 of Formula FSAE 101. I thought that this week would be a good idea to introduce you to a couple of the infrastructure projects I mentioned last week. I think one of the easier projects that we can take on will be a paddock jack. Now this will be different than the push bar, the typical Formula SAE push bar, and we're not going to be competing in the push bar competition and putting popcorn machines on it and all that kind of fun stuff. This is purely function over form, or form follows function, really. If you're like me, you watch a little bit of Formula One, and you've probably noticed in their paddocks that they have these really awesome pneumatic rams that lift up the nose and tail of the Formula car and give you amazing access to the underbody of the car, all of the aero panels underneath there. If you need to change out a floor, you've got amazing access. There's no jack stands in the way underneath the car. There's nothing that the car is being supported on those aero surfaces. That's the most value that this item brings. It also gives you amazing access if you have a pull rod suspension to the underside of the car and being able to make changes to those. Again, when I ran a pull rod car, I found that a jack stand was often right in the way. So you avoid that whole issue with this kind of setup. Further to that, these setups can be adjusted to any height that you want. You could just leave the car on the ground, or you can lift it up just 2 inches and just get the tires off real quick. Or you can lift it right up, 30 inches, 40 inches, however high you decide you need. And so you can get underneath the car to change aero surfaces, to pull the floor right off of the car and have great access to it. Whatever you need, these are a very versatile lift. So if we're going to be building our own lift, I think that it would be amazing to build in some of our own customization, any sort of custom functionality that we need. And so furthering on from last week's video, I think that this project gives us an opportunity to follow through on some of the engineering documentation. As a freshman, we should try to get you thinking about the whole problem, not just the project. You need to be thinking about what kind of resources you have available to you, and you need to start putting together a plan. What kind of timeline do you have to work within? How do you know that the design you've come up with isn't going to potentially hurt somebody, right? You've got people working underneath the car. We're going to need ways to safe it out. We're going to need to have thought about those ways to safe it out. It's a good idea to have some documentation that you actually gave these things some kind of thought. And so we're going to go through that whole work process, I think. That's what I would like to start with. We're looking for a simple project to do that. I think this is perfect. So I've looked into the pneumatic jacks that Formula One uses. Pneumatic rams themselves are $350 from what I could find. And like I said, you've got a human being working underneath the car, so you want some sort of way to safe that out. The safe out valves that I've found are also $100. Not to mention any kind of pneumatic tanks. You need some way to give this thing air, and the only thing that Formula SE really has with it, back out of the paddock when you go to the actual race staging area, you don't have 2,000 psi air tanks with you like you do in the paddock. And maybe you could still potentially bring these jacks there, but you won't be powering it off of an air pig, which is what most SAE teams have. An air pig does not serve something that's an air hog. Sorry for the pun. So I think that pneumatic systems should be ruled out off of the get-go. It's just too expensive and not not easy enough. It needs to be more simple than that. Hydraulics then. Well, I think most teams have access to a porta-power, or you can also get some amazing telescoping bottle jacks. But bottle jacks, they're only about 20 inches. Porta-powers are only about 6 inches before you've got to change out the attachment to try and give you more room. The simple, easy hydraulic systems that you have access to really aren't suited to this purpose either. And it's not worth creating something custom. You're going to invest more money into creating something custom than just going with something simpler. So, there's a company, Race Car Lifts, out of UK, I think. I've seen this jack that I'm showing you on the screen right now. It's extremely simple, and it looks like it's just powered by a piece of all-thread. And I love that idea. I don't see on here any kind of safety lockout mechanism. Like I said, people are going to be working underneath this car. I think that we need to add some pins to this. I think that there's also opportunity here to attach some kind of tool trays or some sort of hook for an impact gun. Really commonly used tools that you want to stay with the car rather than go back into a toolbox, but you do want some sort of way to clear the clutter and to organize your workspace. I think that we can build that into this lift. The race car lifts, also from what I've seen, the legs look very fixed. They look very much put into place. As I was researching this video and this project, I noticed that these things do actually exist. Lifts like this do actually exist out in the marketplace. They're referred to as a bumper jack. So the more that I looked at bumper jacks, the more good ideas I found. Some of them, the forward legs, those legs are folding on some of these and makes the whole setup take up a lot less room. I really like that. Most Formula FSAE teams are going to be packing all of this stuff up in a trailer, so you're space constrained. If these take up too much room in the trailer, or you've got to try and play Tetris in order to pack around it to really optimize the space that you have, I think that that's going to be a barrier to entry for some people. And so I really like the idea of using pins. Like there was a very simple mechanism I saw that just uses pins in order to fold the legs in and out. And so I'm going to steal that inspiration. My plan for the all-thread is very much simplified. See, there is something in the real world that I'm inspired by. It's very common. I think all of us have used it. Think of a lathe. How the bed moves down the rails of a lathe. You lock onto a spinning Acme all-threaded rod in order to thread something, right? That, I don't know the terminology of lathes, I'm sorry. But the spinning all-thread is geared to the head. You can change the rate at which that spins versus the head so that you can put whatever thread pitch you need in. But that all-thread runs parallel to the bed rails and moves the bed up and down the rails. This is exactly the same idea. Think of instead of the bed rails, we've got our mast, and so instead of the bed, we've got our lifting mechanism. I think that's exactly what we're going to try and emulate here as a car lift. Anyway, like I said, I just wanted to introduce you guys to our first project. That's going to be our first project. I will also record another video right after this one on our second project. I'm really excited about the second project. I've started ordering some materials for it. I'm really excited for it. I'm maybe jumping the gun because I haven't done the engineering documentation that yet properly for that I want to instill in you guys. I'm making my own mistakes. But such is life. Thank you so much for watching this week. If you guys like what I'm trying to do here, you think this is a good concept, please make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. Both of those things tell the algorithm that this is something worth the Formula SAE community's time, and shares it with everybody else. Also, by hitting that subscribe button, you're going to see the project we work on next week, or that we introduce next week. Take care. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate your time.